All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling this whole idea of a good living.
Yeah, we've got a ton of research here.
And it goes way beyond just, how much money you make.
Exactly. We're talking health, wealth, lifestyle choices, the whole shebang.
All connected. It's pretty fascinating stuff.
Really is.
We're even going to untangle this poor rich phenomenon. Honestly, that one had me stumped at first.
Oh, it's a real head scratcher. You'd
Yeah.
think, right, high income, good life, easy equation.
Right.
Turns out there are a bunch of folks making bank, but barely keeping their heads above water.
It's like that saying, what is it? It's not what you earn, it's what you keep.
Nailed it. And our sources really drive that point home.
For sure.
Okay.
But first, let's bring everyone back down to earth with a little reality check.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love a good reality check.
One of the sources, it had this crazy example. A family pulling in $400,000 a year
Okay.
in New York City, living paycheck to paycheck.
No way. 400 grand, paycheck to paycheck.
Paycheck to paycheck. It's more than a reality check. It's like a reality slap in the face.
Seriously. That just goes to show you how where you live can make or break you financially.
Big time.
Especially those big, expensive cities.
Yeah.
New York, San Francisco, you know the ones.
Yeah.
Even if you're earning a good chunk of change, taxes, housing, just everyday expenses,
Yeah.
they can eat up your income faster than you can, say, rent.
It's like running on a treadmill, right? You're working harder and harder just to stay in the same place.
Makes you think.
It makes you wonder, is chasing a high-paying job in a super expensive city
Yeah,
actually setting yourself up for financial stress?
that's a valid question. And it brings us back to this whole poor rich thing. How can someone be raking it in and still be struggling?
It's mind-boggling, really.
Well, our sources break it down into a few key scenarios. Picture this, all right? Hotshot lawyer, pulling in a massive salary,
Can't picturing it.
living it up in a penthouse apartment, driving a fancy car, always jetting off to some exotic locale.
Sounds nice, actually.
On the surface, they look loaded. But underneath it all, they're drowning in debt, haven't saved a dime.
Ah, the classic lifestyle inflation trap.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But even if you're not splurging on the fancy stuff, there's still a chance you're missing the mark.
Really? Even if you're being, relatively responsible.
Yep. Let's say our lawyer friend avoids the lifestyle creep, but they're clueless about investing. They're not maxing out their 401k, not taking advantage of those tax-advantaged accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and they definitely haven't even heard of index funds. They might have a fat paycheck, but their wealth isn't actually growing.
So it's not just about earning, it's about being smart with what you earn?
Exactly. And that's where things get interesting. Our sources suggest building wealth has less to do with your income and more to do with your habits. It's about making smart choices, being disciplined,
Right.
and really making your money work for you.
Okay, that's the perfect transition to the next part of our deep dive.
I was thinking the same thing.
We've talked about the pitfalls, but what about the solutions? What are those habits and strategies that actually help us build a solid financial foundation?
That's what we're getting into next.
Stick with us. We'll unpack it all after the break. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. So we've covered some of those surprising ways people can stumble financially, even when they're making good money.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into those traps.
It really is. But now, let's switch gears. Let's talk solutions. What are the strategies that can actually help us build a strong financial base?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is. And luckily, our sources have some pretty solid answers.
Yeah, they highlight some really effective tools. And the best part is you don't need to be a Wall Street whiz to use them.
I like that. Accessible for everyone.
Exactly.
So where do we even begin? What's the first step towards making our money work harder for us?
Well, one source put it really simply. Know your numbers. Basically, it means tracking your spending, getting a clear picture of where your money's actually going.
Makes sense. But honestly, that sounds a little intimidating.
I know, you can feel like homework, right? But trust me, it's worth it.
Okay, so it's like ripping off the Band-Aid. Just got to dive in and face the music.
Kinda. It's more like stepping on the scale after a vacation. Might not want to see the number, but deep down, you know it's important.
Oh, I feel that.
Right. But once you have that honest look at your spending, then you can start making changes.
So you can see, oh, maybe I'm spending way too much on those streaming services I never use.
Exactly. Or maybe those daily lattes are adding up more than you realized.
Little things can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Now, one source brought up this interesting idea of forced savings. They use homeownership as an example.
Forced savings. Isn't a mortgage a huge expense, not a savings plan?
That's what I thought too. But think about it this way. Instead of renting and paying someone else's mortgage, You're slowly building equity in your own property.
So each mortgage payment is kind of like a forced savings contribution.
You got it. Plus, you get to actually live in the space.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like tricking yourself into saving, but in a good way.
Right.
But buying a house? That's a long game. What about something more immediate? Ways to boost savings, right now?
Well, in that case, the magic word is automation.
Automation.
It's honestly one of the most powerful tools out there.
Hmm.
Imagine this. You set up automatic transfers. So money from your checking account goes straight into your savings, your retirement account, even your investment account.
Okay.
And it happens automatically before you even have a chance to spend it.
I actually do that with my savings. It's amazing how quickly it grows.
Like magic, right?
Out of sight, out of mind. Straight into my future travel fund.
There you go.
Ah.
But let's be real. Even with saving, sometimes you hit a wall. Like, what if your job just isn't paying enough to reach your goals?
That's a real struggle for a lot of people.
It is. And sometimes it's not just about managing what you have. It's about finding ways to earn more.
Okay, so we're talking side hustles, multiple income streams, all that.
Exactly. Our sources really emphasize the power of diversifying your income.
That's a hot topic these days. Everyone's talking about side gigs and online businesses.
It's definitely trendy. But I think a lot of people hear side hustle and they just shut down. It can feel overwhelming.
Like, who has the time? Who has the energy?
I get it. But it doesn't have to be this massive, all-consuming thing. It's about finding something that works for you, something you enjoy, something you're good at.
Right. Maybe you turn a hobby into a side gig. Or offer freelance services, even something like investing in renter properties for passive income.
It's about thinking outside that traditional 9-to-5 box.
And finding something that aligns with your passion, something you actually want to do.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got saving, we've got side hustles, but what if you're doing all that and still feeling squeezed?
Well, in that case, you might need to take a hard look at your location. Remember that family from New York we talked about?
Yeah, the 400 grand paycheck to paycheck family.
Yep. Sometimes, even with the best habits, the cost of living can just be a huge roadblock.
Especially in those super expensive cities. It's like you're fighting an uphill battle.
You said it.
So what's the solution? Pack up and move to a cheaper city.
It's an option. And with remote work becoming more and more common, it's definitely a possibility for a lot of people.
I guess it's about weighing the pros and cons, right? Maybe you trade that trendy downtown apartment for a house with a yard in a smaller city.
Exactly. And that trade-off could be the key to financial freedom and, honestly, a better quality of life.
So even your location is a financial decision.
It is. It's about finding the place that fits your goals, your values, not just your desire to be in the middle of the action.
It's about being intentional with where you choose to live.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of being intentional, the final strategy our sources highlighted was creating a long-term financial plan. So it's about thinking beyond next month's bills and looking ahead, 5, 10, even 20 years down the road.
Okay, long-term planning. That always sounds so daunting.
I know it can feel like a lot, but honestly, it doesn't have to be complicated.
So where do you even start?
Start by asking yourself some key questions. Like, when do you want to retire? Are you dreaming of buying a house? Saving for your kids' education?
Okay, big picture stuff.
Right. Once you have a clear vision of your goals, then you can break them down into smaller, more manageable steps.
It's like creating a roadmap for your financial journey.
Exactly.
And it's a roadmap that's personalized to your own dreams and values. That's pretty cool.
It is. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Tracking, spending, automation, diversifying income, being strategic about location, even long-term planning.
It's a lot to take in, but I think the main takeaway is that building a solid financial foundation, it's within reach. Anyone can do it.
I agree. It's about making smart choices and, just building those good habits consistently.
And I think it's also about mindset, right? Shifting from scarcity to abundance, believing that you can create the life you want.
That's a powerful point, because at the end of the day, financial well-being, it's not just about the money.
It's about the freedom and the opportunities that money can provide. It's about creating a life you love.
Exactly. And that brings us to the deeper meaning of good living. That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, welcome back to the show. We've been on quite a journey, really digging into the nuts and bolts of building a good living.
Yeah, all those practical strategies and tips.
Saving, investing, side hustles, the whole 9 yards.
But there's a bigger picture here too.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about the how-to, but the why. Why do we even care about all this stuff?
Right. Like, what's the point of it all?
Our sources kept coming back to this idea that financial well-being, it's not the end goal. It's more like a stepping stone.
It's a means to an end, a way to create a life that feels rich and meaningful, one that reflects what really matters to you.
Okay, so we've got the tools to build wealth.
Mm.
But what are we building towards? What's the point of all this if it doesn't lead to a life that feels good?
That's the key question. And that's where things get personal. There's no one right answer, no cookie-cutter definition of a good life. It's different for everyone.
So some people, they might dream of traveling the world. Others, it might be about spending more time with family or giving back to their community.
Exactly. So it's about figuring out your own why. What are your core values? What do you want your life to stand for? And how can your money choices actually support those deeper goals?
That's a great point. It's like money is a tool, right? A resource.
It is.
It can create opportunities, reduce stress, help you support causes you care about. But ultimately, you're the one holding the tool. You decide how to use it.
You get to call the shots.
I remember one of the sources had this great line. It said, "Don't let your finances dictate your life. Let your values dictate your finances."
Powerful stuff.
It's a good reminder that you have the power to make choices that align with what really matters to you.
Totally. Imagine someone who, like, family is everything to them. They might choose to live in a smaller house, drive a less expensive car, all so they can have more time with their loved ones, or maybe help their kids pay for college. Those are financial decisions, but they're driven by values.
It's about recognizing that saying yes to something you value might mean saying no to something else.
Yeah, it's about trade-offs.
Making conscious choices that support your bigger vision of a good life.
Another source talked about aligning your career with your values. If you're stuck in a job that feels soul-crushing, even a big paycheck isn't going to make you feel fulfilled.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that.
But when you find work that feels meaningful, that connects with your passions, it's not just a job anymore. It's a contribution.
I think that sense of purpose can be really powerful. It fuels your energy, your motivation, and that can lead to more success and ultimately a deeper sense of satisfaction with your life.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
Exactly. And it's not just work, right?
Yeah.
It's how you spend your free time,
Yeah.
how you connect with your community, how you take care of your mental and physical health. All these things contribute to your overall well-being.
I don't get it.
It's like all the pieces of the puzzle fitting together. You've got that solid financial foundation, your values driving your choices, meaningful work, strong relationships, healthy habits. Suddenly, you have a life that feels vibrant, fulfilling.
It's a beautiful thing when it all comes together.
It really is. And I think that's a great way to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah, this has been a fascinating exploration.
We've learned so much, and I hope our listeners feel inspired to take action. You have
Yeah.
the power to shape your financial future. You can create a life that truly reflects what matters most to you.
Absolutely.
So that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.